Thank you. Thank you very much, Sagele. May I now welcome Nigel. I know we are up on our time, but I know he will take a shorter time. So Nigel, welcome. Thank you. Yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Okay.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I think it's off. The mic is off.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
He's not using presentation.
It's good to see you alive in the back there. Yeah, yeah. It's like giving a lecture, isn't it? I haven't been to Middlesex University for a long time. It's great to be here. But primarily, it's great to be here at a CTO event. It's fantastic to be physically present again as a CTO event. You don't want to hear my history. We haven't got much time. We need coffee, don't we? Yes. So I won't go on too long. But I've been a long-term civil servant. You can tell that. The lack of hair. I did it in the private sector. I worked for ICANN for a number of years, but now I'm back in government. And what I do in government is generally internet policy issues, internet governance issues. So this for me is a bit of a is a much wider topic. HR and the internet is an incredibly interesting topic, but I work with the CTO to get a place here today so I can come and see you, because I really like talking to CTO members. So I think the topic of today's dialogue is incredibly interesting, and I think the backdrop, what I'm going to talk about is really been touched on by Zakhel in that really interesting presentation he just gave, because the pandemic has of course changed everything. It's changed everything, and we've learned lessons from it. Now, I don't think these lessons are unique. I don't think that some of the technologies that Zakhel mentioned, like artificial intelligence in the HR space, would have been something that wouldn't have come in if it hadn't have been for the pandemic. But I think the pandemic and the fact that we work from home, this virtual working, has accelerated some of the adoption of these technologies and accelerated some of the thinking of this. It's been a testing. But well, Zakhel was incredibly constructive and positive about it, and I'm not going to be negative at all. I'm a positive person. I think some excellent technologies, some excellent trends in the way we work has come out of the pandemic. The fact that we can have a mixed workplace for some of us, not all of us, of course. Some people can't have the advantage of a mixed working environment, but some people can work in the office sometimes, they can travel sometimes, and they can work remotely at other times. And it shows that is quite feasible. And there's some tremendous constructive aspects that have come out of this in terms of remote learning, in terms of being able to collaborate in a much more effective way than we did before. And also, I think it shifted the balance for some people. I work with DCMS in a group on social mobility, and for some people, we must understand that for some people before the pandemic, getting into work, being able to interact with their colleagues was difficult, either because of physical accessibility reasons, mental health issues, or for other practical issues. Perhaps they were carers in the home for their for other family members or whatever, and they struggled to get into work. And the environment before the pandemic for remote workers was awful. They were often treated as second-class citizens. A phone was placed in the middle of the table, and you could sometimes hear them in meetings and you sometimes couldn't. And so we've learned from that, and we've now, we're working together as we are here. As I can see, 33 participants on the Zoom channel or whatever. So we're now much better enabling this duality of environment of the virtual and the physical. But let me not delve on it, but let me raise a couple of really, I think, important points about HR and the internet and how we move forward on this. And the first comes to recruitment and how we recruit our people in the future. Yes, we can use artificial intelligence. Yes, we can use new techniques to be able to recruit our people. But we have to be so careful in this on how far we go. There's been a lot of speculation in the press about how people are recruited now into some of our top banking positions, into our top consultancies, how their social media posts, how their history of on social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or whatever, is trawled indiscriminately by artificial intelligence methods in terms of their recruitment. And so recruitment becomes not a face-to-face issue where we can talk together and we can talk about cricket or something else, but it becomes this automated process where somehow people never get to the interview stage. They get ejected in the sim just because they've done something 20 years ago. Now, fortunately for some of us that are older, I mean, most of our misdemeanors that we carried out in our 20s were never anywhere near the internet, unless someone actually took a photograph of us outside that pub, then, no one will ever know what I did when I was 18. But for some of you younger people, your past will be known because it's on social media. So the use of artificial intelligence in recruitment has to be very carefully monitored, not just because it's unfair and discriminatory to pick up individual aspects of someone's life, which could be misinformation anyway, but also because by doing so, we might miss talent, we might miss the very people that we want to work in our organisations, whether it's government, private sector, or something else. So we have to be so careful on how we use artificial intelligence and other techniques in recruitment. The second aspect is surveillance that I just wanted to talk about. And surveillance is a very wide term, and I'm not going to talk about national security. And please note, I don't know much about it. I'm not going to talk about surveillance in a political sense, but in a work sense, in a day-to-day sense on how surveillance can change the way we work and can change the way we work. And to put it in context, I was reading an article the other day which said it's all very well for us liberals. I mean, we have a lot of debate in the UK about, people complain about, the use of data and that, and they're all wimps and they're all liberals, and, really the boss should have the say in how an organisation is running that. And of course, we must remember in our history that employees have always been monitored, employees have always been controlled in some sense. I'm not commenting how good or bad that is, but when we look at the way that technology, surveillance, artificial intelligence, or whatever affects us in the workplace, we must remember, and we typically talk about the workplace as being the office, and the fact that we're on Zoom and we've been tracked on Zoom, what we do, how often we're in front of the camera, how often we're actually making emails, when we log on in the morning, when we log off at night, that is all tracked. We must remember, of course, that people that work in factories, people that work in manual occupations often have this as well, not in the same way perhaps, but they also are monitored and tracked about their moves in the workplace. So I think surveillance, again, is something where there's some really positive aspects that has come out of that. Zahil touched on a couple of the ability for the employer to know how the employee is, to be able to detect signs of stress, to be able to detect signs of other problems, and then be able to help them, and et cetera, et cetera. And so, there are positive aspects of understanding how employees are when they're working remotely. But there's other aspects, of course, which are less favorable. This ability to actually look at employees when they're on the Zoom call and to be able to monitor their, to be able to monitor what they say and that, but also to monitor what they're doing in a real sense. And I think what this shows, whether it's recruitment, whether it's day-to-day surveillance, that we have to have a backdrop of rules and regulations, that we have to have principles that we adhere to, that we have to have transparency, that an employee has to know when they're going for a job what that organisation does, how that organisation works with its employees in terms of day-to-day management. There has to be transparency, there has to be accountability, and I think there has to be some form of guidelines that. Sorry, another microphone. Oh, this one's an animal. You have to wake up right now. Sorry about that. Coffee soon. There has to be some sort of transparency, some sort of guidelines, principles behind how we use these new technologies in the workplace. And this is fundamentally, steered to an extent by what legislation, what national legislation we have in our country. It's the fact that we have data protection legislation is all important. The fact that we have some sort of policy and legislation that does protect the use of data in the workplace, that does give the owners of that data some rights into how the employers can use that data. I think this is enormously important. So I think I'll conclude there. I think we've seen that the internet technology and artificial intelligence is going to have a dramatic effect on the workplace. Some of the aspects of this are going to be positive, but we have to be, as employees or colleagues or whatever we are, we have to recognise that there can be negative effects as well, and we have to work to make sure that there's a limited as far as possible. So I think this is a fascinating topic we've had here, and yeah, it's great to be back with the CTO. Thank you.